Red and blue lights flickered over my pool like somebody had thrown a disco on top of a crime scene. And I remember standing there thinking, if this is what community looks like, I want a refund. There I was, half-eaten hot dog still floating in the shallow end, a unicorn float spinning like it had lost all sense of purpose, and my nephew Jalen stuck in mid-cannonball because a cop just barked freeze over the megaphone. All this because Karen, my across-the-street nemesis with a laminated HOA handbook clutched in her claws, had decided my nephew's birthday party was some kind of organized political coup. And as the security guard tried to block the governor's daughter from the blinding lights you could see in the cops' faces, they were wondering why they'd been dragged out here to what was basically a backyard pool party with a taco truck. The wild part, 12 hours earlier, it was just me setting up for Jalen's 10th birthday. Nothing more elaborate than a couple of floats, a bounce house for the kids, margarita machine for the adults, and a taco truck out back near the alley. Nothing crazy, just a regular family thing, well, except for the detail where Jalen's best friend is the governor's youngest son. Which meant I had a black SUV parked down the block, a guy named Rye blending into the bushes who could break you in half with a look. And here's the kicker. Mrs. T, the governor's wife herself, bringing cupcakes and yoga pants like she was any other mom, Tupperware in hand, grateful to be somewhere nobody cared about politics for once. It was all smooth kids, screaming adults, sipping margaritas. Even Mrs. T looked relaxed until the Bluetooth speaker hit peak 90s hip-hop, and Karen's prairie dog head popped up over the hedge. I swear her eye twitched at the sight of my pineapple float. She muttered to her husband Doug, who promptly pretended to be on a phone call and stomped back to her lair. Not even 15 minutes later, the community group chat lit up unapproved pool gathering. Photos of suspicious wet grass, a paper plate left on the walk, blurry shots of the taco truck. Karen was in full war mode. Thing is, Karen's not just your garden variety HOA tyrant. She's the sort who measures grass with a ruler, once threatened a neighbor for harboring squirrels, and carries a noise meter in her purse like it's a medical device. So when she showed up with said meter, waving it over the fence and shrieking about HOA, Article 4.32, I offered her a cupcake. She recoiled like I'd handed her plutonium. 5 minutes later, my Ring camera caught her calling 911, illegal gathering minors, drinking, political chanting, possible protest, I kid you not. I should have laughed, but with Karen, you never know. Meanwhile, Mrs. T is inside making balloon animals, Rise scanning like a secret agent, and the kids are launching Nerf darts everywhere. But then right on the dot at 4, the first patrol car rolls up, then the second, then 2 more quiet no sirens, which somehow made it worse. Kids froze, adults went pale. The cop asked if I was the homeowner. I said yes, tried to look as boring as possible. I explained we had some guests with protective detail. He nodded like that explained everything. Noise complaint, I guessed. More than that, he said. Possible underage drinking, illegal activity, and high-profile attendees. I about spit my lemonade. And that's when Karen rolled up phone in one hand, HOA bylaws in the other, explaining I was a repeat community offender. She accused the taco truck of parking over her tulips, the teens of doing suspicious dances. I pointed out those were just playing Marco Polo, her own niece among them, mind you. The officers, to their credit, took it seriously until Mrs. T stepped outside, cool as you please, nodded at the officers and asked, "Is there a problem?" You could feel the gears turning. One officer recognized her from TV. Karen's face went from smug to stunned in under 10 seconds. Then Rye stepped up, flashed his credentials, which made the officer's posture snap straight. And suddenly it dawned on everybody that this wasn't just a neighborhood spat. Karen had 911, the governor's wife, live in front of half the community. In the midst of this, Karen is out there narrating for her phone camera. This is what happens when people ignore the rules, totally oblivious to the disaster unfolding. Governor's wife stays chill, thanks the officers for their concern, and one of them, sweating bullets, apologizes. Karen loses it, binder out, flipping through her emergency incident log like she's at a Supreme Court hearing. She points at me, says it's not personal, she's just enforcing order. That's when Jalen's best friend, the governor's son, pipes up. Is she always like this? Because if so, we're never coming back. The officer nearly snorted. But the protocol had to play out ID checks, more officers, more sideways glances. Rye's credentials had them whispering. Karen, meanwhile, still narrating to her group chat, unaware that the messages coming back are now less hero and more. What have you done? Word starts spreading. Karen just called the cops on the governor's wife. Her phone's blowing up, but she keeps right on lecturing officers about pool safety and noise ordinances. Then just when you think it can't get more absurd, a black SUV rolls up, out steps the governor himself. Karen, mid-rant about decibel levels, gets tapped on the shoulder. "Ma'am, are you the one who made the emergency call?" She beams, thinking she's finally getting backup. "I'm Governor Langston. I'd like you to stop talking. If you could have bottled the silence that followed, you'd have enough to last a lifetime." He laid it out. This wasn't just a birthday. It was a charity event, low profile, to protect the kids. Because of her call, he'd left a conference, had to explain to his team why his wife was questioned by police at a child's pool party. Karen tried to stammer out an apology, then went back to denial. "I didn't know you were involved. I was just following the rules." "You mean my children, their friends, and a bunch of foster kids we support?" The governor's voice never rose, but the room went icy. "You weaponized emergency services, you embarrassed the community, and you endangered my family." Karen looked ready to faint. He apologized to me for the mess, said to expect legal action, then calmly gathered his family and left. Karen stood there, binder limp, mouth open, as the last of her audience drifted away. The officers finished up, muttering into radios, more embarrassed for themselves than anyone else. That night, the whole block felt different. Some neighbors thanked me. A few finally spoke up about years of Karen's pettiness. Even the taco truck guy handed out churros for free just to keep spirits up. Jalen and Luca, the governor's son, didn't miss a beat, feet in the water, laughing, throwing water balloons like nothing happened. Rye, that silent wall of muscle, just faded back to the fence, watching a ghost with a badge. Later, a black government-plated car arrived. Out came a guy with an ID badge, Office of the Inspector General. "We need to ask about your 911 call, ma'am." Karen's voice wobbled as she tried to play it off. "Just my civic duty," but the agent was stone. "This is about interfering with state-protected individuals." Karen staggered, and I realized she finally understood the hole she'd dug. The next morning, I get a call from the governor's executive assistant thanking me for staying calm, telling me they'd be making a statement about abuse of emergency services. She asked if they could commend me in public. "Sure," I laughed. "Free PR is free PR." 2 hours later, the HOA board called a conference call, 3 members walking on eggshells, apologizing, promising a full investigation into Karen's behavior. They'd been blindsided, but nobody was really surprised. She'd pushed too far for too long. By noon, state investigators showed up at Karen's door. She came out flustered, gesturing wildly. News vans pulled up, and suddenly the whole neighborhood was watching. The local headlines didn't mention names, but everyone knew. Karen's HOA incident log became a meme. Reddit crowned her queen of overreach. As I grilled burgers for Jalen that night, the governor himself called, invited me to a gala, thanked me for making his wife feel safe. I just said, "You're always welcome as long as you don't bring the press." We both laughed, and for the first time in weeks, the neighborhood felt light. The fallout kept coming. HOA blasted an urgent email emergency meeting, misuse of authority. Neighbors came out in force, old folks, whispering, kids grinning. Even the ones who never talk stopped me on my dog walk to say, "Never thought anyone could actually beat Karen." The meeting was electric. The board read out her violations, misuse of cameras, digital privacy breaches, manipulating complaints. She tried to blame confusion and anonymous tip, but nobody bought it. The board suspended her 4-0, her access revoked, and the room broke into applause. One woman yelled, "You screamed at a 10-year-old with a water gun." It was surreal, cathartic. 2 days later, a legal firm sent me a letter. If I wanted to file suit for damages, the state would back me. I hadn't decided yet, but I got a plaque from the governor. In appreciation for defending common sense, also best churros we've ever had. There was a photo of Jalen and Luca cannonballing a note from the First Lady. Karen's house went dark, the clipboard disappeared, and for the first time, the kids played past her yard without looking over their shoulders. The block felt alive again, movie nights, lemonade stands, laughter where there'd been tension. New board members asked me to help form an advisory group, first meeting my backyard under string lights with honest talk about what we wanted for the neighborhood. Turns out it wasn't rules, it was trust. Karen tried to apologize, dropping off stiff-typed letters to every house. A week later, she formally resigned, no drama, just a one-line email and a for sale sign in the yard. She moved to a retirement community, no HOA, just rules she couldn't bend. The pool party that started it all became a legend. The next summer, the governor's family came back. No security, just neighbors' laughter and churros. Someone made a hand-painted sign, "No Karen Zone." Respect, kindness, and cannonballs only. We hung it by the gate. The governor's wife gave a toast. Said true community isn't built by rules and fines, but by kindness and listening. As the sun set and the laughter rolled, someone handed me a lemonade and said, "You started something." I just shook my head. No, Karen did. I just didn't let her finish it. That's the thing about change. It never shows up tidy. It barges in during pool parties and awkward apologies. And when it finally comes, all you can do is let the gate swing open, fire up the grill, and let the cannonballs fly. Because in the end, a neighborhood isn't about the rules. It's about who you're willing to share your backyard with when the sun goes down, the music's playing, and the churros are fresh. That's where we finally figured it out, no Karen required. So what do you think? Was justice served, or did we just get lucky? Let me know below, because everyone's got an opinion about what makes a community work, and I want to hear yours.